Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Purpose Partner Path podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Gladney, the Purpose Partner. This is the place where we help women at crossroads rediscover who they are, become unshakable in who they're called to be, and to learn how to lead their life well, which is what I call strategic grace. And today's conversation, it's going to be a good one because we're not just talking about grace as a concept. We're going to talk about grace in action. What does it look like? How to lead with intention, how to communicate with clarity, and how to build relationships that truly matter. Because in a world that often it rewards noise, a lot of just chatter, speed, and pressure. Well, strategic grace invites us to lead a little bit differently, where we lead with wisdom, with purpose, and without losing ourselves. And I could not think of a better guest to have to lead this conversation today other than this incredible woman who I've known for many years. So before we go there, you know what we do every week? Let's go grab our cup of tea so we can get started.
Exhale, let go, and enjoy the Purpose Partner Podcast. Wendy Gladney.
So today I have the honor of welcoming Beverly Durham. Beverly is an accomplished communications leader and the owner of BLD Communications. She is known for helping organizations clarify who they are and to build meaningful, authentic connections with the audience they serve. Her work spans strategic communications, media relations, community outreach, stakeholder engagement, and multicultural marketing, always with a focus on building awareness and inspiring action. Most recently, Beverly served as Vice President of Development and Communications at the YWCA of Greater Los Angeles, leading efforts that empower women and advance racial and economic justice. And before that, she held senior leadership roles at Burrell Communications and Porter Novelli. She has worked with powerhouse clients like Deloitte, Fidelity, and McDonald's, which is where I had the privilege of meeting her. And she has worked with Nike, Disney Parks, and Ronald McDonald House Charities. Beverly is also a recipient of the Women of Color in Communications Circle Award and continues to serve in leadership roles supporting diverse voices and storytelling. You can tell she's a busy lady. Beverly, welcome to the show. So, before we go into more about you, just tell us who Beverly Durham is at the core.
First of all, Wendy, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your podcast. I'm really excited to be here and just have a great conversation with you. I think at my core, I look at myself as a bridge builder, as someone who helps connect organizations and companies with the audiences, and doing it in a way that's authentic, that moves with integrity, that care, and all built into dignity. I want to be sure that organizations and companies really treat people in a way in which everybody can grow and whose lives can be enhanced. And I've really built my legacy and my work around helping organizations and leaders communicate effectively to their audiences, be it internal or external.
Wow, you said some key words that I had to write down. And one is when you talk about being a bridge builder, that is so crucial today. We need more people that are able to connect and unite, and then also to allow people to have their integrity and their dignity. So what I'm really hearing is how you're all about alignment and knowing who you are and how you show up and helping your clients with that as well. So that leads me into the conversation we're going to have about strategic grace. I often say that strategic grace is power without pressure. It's movement without losing your peace. And it's leading with intention. That's part of what you were talking about, intention, not reaction. And from your perspective, Beverly, what does it mean to lead with both strategy and grace?
Well, strategy is the part of thinking and thinking about what you want the outcomes to be, right? And then the grace part is really about choosing, having a purpose with that, but showing that purpose and showing the integrity, having the grace to realize that you're not the end all be all. You're not the overall expert. A good communicator and a good approach is listening to the audience and understanding what the audience wants to hear, what the audience needs to hear, and what it is that an organization can say, but more importantly, do to provide clarity, show respect, and improve the lives of the audience are trying to reach.
That is really, key. When I heard you say the word listen, a lot of people may hear, but they don't listen. They don't listen. And I know that you've built a career around helping organizations communicate clearly and authentically. And let's be honest, a lot of people struggle with communication. We know that, not just professionally, but even personally. And you even hit a key thing. Part of it could be because they're not listening. But let me ask you this. What is the difference between just communicating and communicating with intention?
Just communicating, I think, is when people are in their own heads and it's important for people to hear what I have to say, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
I just want to get it out.
Yeah.
This is my point of view, and the whole world needs to hear it.
Yeah.
That's communication. Communicating with purpose, again, goes to being audience-centric. It's about the listening part, understanding what motivates them, what pressures they might be undergoing right now, and how can I help them in that situation, and how can my communication cater to what their needs may be at that moment or for that purpose.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Basically, what you just said, what I thought about was you putting the other person first, which goes back to also listening and showing that you care and compassion because, like the old saying was, most people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's kind of what you're sharing. And that's really powerful when I really think about it.
It takes you back to the Maya Angelou quote, right? That I think as a communicator is so important. And I kind of base my work on that. Mm-hmm. People will forget what you said. Mm-hmm. People will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Yeah. And I think a powerful communicator focuses on how we can make that person feel.
That is so true. I know that's true because sometimes I don't care all of your titles and all the different things, but when I know you care, and not just about me, but whatever we're doing or working on or who we're helping, I'll step back and really give you front row and really listen. And so I think that's very key. Let me ask you this. Can you share a moment in your career where communication, when it was done right, created real impact?
There's a bunch. I think, though, one of the things I'm most proud of when I did work for McDonald's, and McDonald's at the time was going through a real challenging period where people felt that McDonald's was to blame for childhood obesity, for all the health issues, nutrition, everything. McDonald's was the cause of all of it, which
scapegoat.
A rational person knows that's not true, right? Mm-hmm. But it is what the community was feeling and what the news media was delivering. Mm-hmm. We worked really hard to develop a program that took the concerns of doctors, nutritionists, nurses, and educators into mind. And we developed a program of how we could get them or how to see McDonald's in a different light. And it started with a simple program called Open Doors, where we sat down with these community leaders and then brought them into the restaurant and behind the counter where they could see how food went from the back door to the front counter.
Yes.
And to understand the care that McDonald's puts into place to ensure a quality meal every time, the consistency of the product, all of the good things that they do. And that program, we noticed, really changed the tone of the media. But it started with us listening to these audiences and saying, here are what your concerns are. What could we do to help you address those concerns or see those concerns from a different perspective? The last program we did as part of this, one of the things I'm most proud of, we did an event for food bloggers and influencers. And we hired a private chef, a famous private chef, and he created an entire meal based off of McDonald's ingredients. And we invited these food bloggers, said, you're coming to a special tasting by this famous chef. And that's all they knew. He's trying out a new menu. Love to get your input. So we did not tell them throughout the entire meal until the very end. They were eating their dessert out of a ramekin, and the McDonald's arches were at the bottom of the ramekin. It wasn't until that point that they were told that everything they ate was made of ingredients found at McDonald's restaurants.
Wow. So, that's an interesting story, because you went out of your comfort zone because and then you ended up at a crossroad where you had to help make decisions on what's going to kind of happen and how are you going to frame, people's mindsets to understand what was really going on. And in the end, you educated. And so I really like that, because I talk a lot about crossroads, and I know that every woman has them, every person has them, where we have to decide, do I stay the same or do I step into something greater? And you just shared with us that you had some crossroad moments in your career of where you had to make some serious decisions. Is there another story, maybe differently, that when you were at a crossroads, you had to either go right or left and then live with that?
Several, right?
Like all of us.
Like we all.
Yep.
I think the biggest one was when I stopped working with McDonald's and left Porter Novelli, the agency that had the McDonald's business. I've been on that piece of business for 22 years.
That's a long time.
So, now I had a bit of a career before that, but 22 years at one agency leading this large piece of business. And honestly, I was at a point where, do I really want to do that anymore for another organization or another company? And think through, at that point, where I want to have an impact. As great as McDonald's, and I'm very proud of that work that I did, some of the best parts of that business was also working with Ronald McDonald House Charities, and knowing that every day my work was truly impacting families who were dealing with critically ill children.
Yes. And
another part of that job was leading the scholarship program, where we gave away $250,000 in scholarships every year. And my team was responsible for that program.
Yes.
And so I took a step back and said, what are the things that I really like to do? And where am I in my life? And how am I going to do, quote unquote, a legacy or an impact? And I've made a decision, although I still do some corporate and some business client work.
Yes.
I really love the nonprofit work. I really know that what you, at the end of the day, is helping to improve lives. And let's be honest and let's be clear, profit doesn't pay what corporate work pays.
I live it every day. I know. I know.
So, it's also a bit of an ego, right? Ego, a shot to your ego. I've worked 22, 30 years
In corporate.
and I've gone from this to this.
No.
Now I'm going to take a step back and say, you know what? This doesn't matter. I got to that point. I'm fine with being down at this point if I'm having an impact on people's lives.
But let me just say this about that. I've had to learn this because I had my own share of insecurities, because you've known me for many years. I've been an entrepreneur, self-employed. I have had people appreciate what I do. I've had other people who've tried to step on me and thought I was like, I'll call it the help, which I am the help actually, because the kind of work I do, I help people. But there's a difference between being the help and being treated as if you don't matter. And so I understand that sometimes, even because I deal a lot on this show about helping women with their confidence, with their self-esteem, when they're going through, different trials and tribulations at crossroads and so forth. How do we handle that? How do we get through it? And I was going to say that because a lot of the people that also support the show also are in the nonprofit arena. And I was going to say is that we have to make sure that people in corporate don't see us here. We're here. We're equal with them. We're just doing a different work, and sometimes we have to see how we visualize and how we paint the picture. And I had a real lesson with that, because I used to always kind of, if I'm honest, think I was less than, because I didn't have a corporate life and so forth. And it wasn't until, a couple of key people in my life said, but Wendy, you work with corporate, you've worked with this and that, you've been part of that arena, and that doesn't make you any better or any less, and so I think that kind of takes us to a point of, how do we view success, or what do we view as being important? And so one of the questions I was going to ask you, and you kind of alluded to it and answered it a bit, it was just like, when you were at those crossroads, or when you had to make those decisions, what did you learn most about yourself? And one of the things that I felt from what you were saying is that you want to make impact, and that it's not necessarily about the title, or, we have to make money, so we can't just throw that under the rug, but you want a legacy. And that's a lot about what I am in my life too, is I try to even teach my children and now grandchildren, yes, 5 grandchildren, that, legacy is important, that after we're gone, what did you do to make a difference in this world? What do you want to matter? So let me ask you this, another one of my pillars that I talk a lot about, we just kind of dealt with crossroads a little bit, is being unshakable, where we have to learn how to stand firm in who we are. And even when things all around us are shifting, which they are right now, we know that. And I know that you've worked in high level environments with the major brands and organizations. And now you've done a lot of work within the nonprofit, and so I'll say small businesses too, because you help all of us. I would say, how have you stayed grounded and make sure you don't lose Beverly?
I think we talk about this, or it's that strategic grace, to give myself grace, and
so important
to stay aligned to who I am, and to not allow myself to get lost in my own imposter syndrome as well, which we all experience.
Yes.
I think we're like, are we good enough? I've also, for me, I know some of my strength comes when I work in teams. I think I'm really good at helping other people get to their own clarity. And their clarity helps my clarity.
Yes.
So as a solopreneur, right? As an solopreneur, I'm always looking for people who I can just bounce ideas off of, and who I can collaborate with, even if it's just, hey, can I ask you a question and get your feedback? goes to what I said earlier, right? About a good communicator is always thinking about what
Listening.
the other person on the other side is thinking and incorporating that into what I think. Am I getting to the answer to your question?
Yeah, and I think what's really, you brought up something too that I think is really important and critical is when you talked about being an entrepreneur and a solopreneur, because when you are an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, you need village, you need your tribe, you need community. So that, like you said, somebody that you can bounce things off of or listen to them and see what they're saying or talking about, because sometimes we can get into silos because we're about the work and we're like so focused that we forget, oh, that is happening right now in the world. Okay. Because I know with me, sometimes I don't do a good job of always watching the news. And sometimes it's because it's depressing. And then sometimes because I'm so focused that I have a couple people in my life that always say, well, Wendy, when the world, if it comes to an end, I'm going to text you to make sure you know, because I know you're not going to get it off of the news. And so when you talked about, having someone to go to maybe say, hey, I have an idea. What do you think about this? Or, is this crazy? Because one of the things that I also think about too is I'm getting older. I'm in my 60s. And I think, okay, do I still have time to do this one more thing in life, And then when you're around other people who are positive, it encourages you. So let me ask you this, because this is a great segue when you even mentioned about fighting sometimes the imposter syndrome. What advice would you give a woman who looks successful on the outside, but maybe internally she feels very disconnected or unsure of herself?
I think we all do. I think first thing is to realize that we all do that, go through that.
Sure.
It's not, you're not just sitting there by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the woman that you look up to the most has had her own moments of self-doubt and imposter syndrome. And isn't there an old adage about looking or appearing to be what you want to be?
Yes. Like they say, dress for the part that you want to be versus where you are. Mm-hmm.
Right. And that, I think that is your emotional IQ as well, is to realize that and realize that if you continue to show up here, that's where people are going to see you. Mm-hmm. So you continue to focus on your expertise. You share your expertise. And the more you talk, the more expert you become. The more you learn, the more you read, the more insightful you become.
Yes, I know that's true.
It's not allowing your self-doubt to stop you from trying.
I like that.
I think that's kind of key.
Yeah, I like that. Don't stop trying. That's a good one. I think also I liked how you kind of touched on emotional intelligence as well. And when we look at leadership today, and this show focuses a lot on women. So when I look at how women are showing up with leadership, what does grace-filled leadership look like to you?
I think grace-filled leadership means giving yourself grace as well as giving others grace. Mm-hmm. Giving yourself grace. I'm not an expert at everything. Mm-hmm. I've done PR and communications for 30 plus years. That doesn't mean I'm an expert, honestly. And so there are times where I need to do my research. There are times where I need to pick other brains. There are times where I need to find answers outside of myself. Mm-hmm. And that's super okay.
Totally.
Super okay. But also giving grace to people. I think a good leader is a coach. I think a great leader is someone who has empathy and wants to help other people achieve personally.
Yes.
As a manager, my job is not only to help a person achieve an organization's goals. Mm-hmm. My job is to help that person achieve their own personal goals?
Mhm.
Is it their professional goals? Is it something they need to try and they need to overcome? Is it something that I can lean on their knowledge and expertise and their experience that I don't have
Mhm.
that can help influence or build a bridge or help us
Yeah.
build upon what we're doing?
Yes. Wow.
And I pride myself
Excuse me.
on being that coach manager for people
Yes.
and making sure I understand what drives them because
Mhm.
I'm listening to them, right?
Yes.
And what drives them so that as they help an organization achieve their goals, they're also achieving their own personal goals.
Yeah. I know that sometimes when I've had conversations with people around the topic of grace, they think, "Oh, that's weakness. That's just like when you don't know what to do or say and you just get quiet and meek." And what people don't realize is to extend grace oftentimes takes so much composure and so much discipline and just getting out of your own way, because it's easy to just lash out, versus when you stop. It's almost like I tell people, learn how to respond versus react. And to respond, that means you have to have been able to think about it a little bit. You have to be able to formalize what your response is going to be, versus when you react, you're just lashing out. So I definitely think that grace is a strength that oftentimes, people don't realize, and I don't know, they don't give it enough. So there's soft skills and hard skills, like you and I know,
Right.
and grace is one of those soft skills, but it's also a soft skill that can break down so many walls and barriers. So, that's how I feel about grace. So thank you for sharing that as it relates to leadership. So let's shift a little bit. I know that you've worked with organizations that truly impact communities. The YWCA. You mentioned the Ronald McDonald House, and I know there's been others. So, as you're leaving a legacy for this type of work, what do you hope to accomplish internally as it relates to it? Because externally we know that you're making an impact, whether you're bringing awareness about the organization, helping them with raising funds, but when you go home at night, or I know we all work at home too, but when you close your eyes at night and get ready to go to sleep, what's your aha moment that you want to feel good about as it relates to the work you just did?
I think it does come down to I've helped an organization, a person, whoever achieve something
Hmm.
for themselves,
Hmm.
right? As a good manager, I've prepped somebody to leave me and go to another job with a higher position and a higher raise. That's, I will tell you, when I think about the people that I've managed and what they've achieved, I take a little bit of pride in where they are today
Yes.
because I feel like I helped them get there. I
Yes.
helped prep them for that. Um, when you have work that with nonprofits that directly impact lives, like YWCA and Ronald McDonald House Charities, that my work helped bring a spotlight to the organization so that they can continue to improve lives.
Yes.
I remember
Yeah.
one of my first things with Ronald McDonald House when I first started back in the early 90s was to help them shoot the video for their upcoming fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the Loma Linda Ronald McDonald House.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a boy who was waiting on a heart transplant. This boy was a brat. I mean, if you didn't know he was sick, he was just a brat. But he touches my life every day because I think this kid had no idea how to live any other way. This has just been a part of his life.
Yeah.
And he was just a kid. His parents were struggling, right, emotionally because they understand the impact. He was just a kid.
Yeah.
And being a kid, rotten little kid, just being a kid. And I literally think about that boy probably 3 or 4 times a year. Just pops in my head about how he was just living, because that's what kids do.
Right.
And it was telling his story at a fundraiser that helped the organization raise money so that they could be there for other families and children in similar situations.
I think you just shared also another example of grace. I mean, you had to extend grace to this little boy, even though he was a kid, in order for you to be the adult and do the work that you needed to do that it ultimately was going to benefit him, or help him.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this time in the show that I like to do with some of my guests. And so I hope you're ready, because I'm going to do what's called a quick reflection round, where you basically say the first thing that comes to your heart or to your mind as I say this phrase. Are you ready?
I am doing my best. Let's go for it.
Okay. Strategic grace is?
Strategic grace is being thoughtful and respectful in your own insecurities, and giving yourself the grace to not be the expert all the time, or not be at your best all the time.
Great answer. Leadership means?
Leadership means helping yourself and others improve their lives, the lives of the community. It's putting everybody in your thought process to be able to achieve goals.
Okay. Communication should always
put the other person, audience first.
Okay. Women at crossroads need to remember?
Women at crossroads need to remember that we all go through it. We've all been there. And it's a crossroad. It's not the end of the road.
Okay. In one sentence, Beverly Durham is?
Whew.
Yeah.
Let's see. Beverly Durham is first and foremost the proud mother of twins. But Beverly is also someone who truly wants the best for the people she loves, but also the community she lives in and the society that I'm part of.
Wonderful. That's beautiful. That really is. And I know you, so I know that that's who you are. So I just want to say this has been a powerful and grounded conversation. And you've reminded us that clarity matters. You talked about clarity earlier, about how sometimes you helping other people with their clarity helps you with your clarity. You talked about connection matters, that we have to have our village, we have to have our tribe, especially for those of us who are solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. And how we show up really does matter. And strategic grace is not about being perfect. It's about being in the right alignment. So I just want to thank you again. And as we begin to bring this to a close, what would you like to leave today with our listening audience? What's your closing thought?
So my closing thoughts, I think, I hope people found a couple of nuggets that they can internalize and really help them in their pursuit as they grow, mature, build their businesses, their organizations, manage, etc. And then, also I'm here. I'd love to help small businesses, medium businesses, nonprofits. I'm here to help you with your communications challenges and help you better communicate with your audiences, be it internally and externally. And you can learn more about me and my business at BLD Comms. So BLDCOMMS.com.
And you know what? We're going to make sure we put that up on the screen when we do our editing and make sure people know how to find you, because I do believe you have a lot to offer to our community and to businesses and nonprofits. And so I'm grateful to know you, but I'm also grateful that I could share you with our listening audience today. And to everyone listening, if you're at a season of transition, and if you're standing at a crossroad, or if you're just learning how to lead without losing yourself, remember this. You don't have to force your way forward. You can move with intention, you can lead with clarity, and you can walk in strategic grace. So until next time, I'm Coach Wendy, the Purpose Partner, and please visit my website at wendygladney.com, where you can learn more about the Purpose Partner and my latest handbook called the Purpose Partner Method Handbook. And it's actually on sale during the month of May in honor of Mother's Day. So have a blessed day, and thank you again, Beverly, for joining us. Until next time.
Exhale, let go, and enjoy the purpose. Partner, partner, partner.